Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve and today we're taking a look at my team selection for Game Week 8, which has actually thrown us a few curveballs with injuries to key players like Botman, Estupinan Saka and Diaby. And with an absolute abundance of managers playing their wildcards this week, it means that the new template is going to be very strong and well backed. Now, my replacement for Saka this week seems to be a bit of a sleeper in that I haven't actually seen him in any wildcard floating around on YouTube yet. So he's a bit of a differential with a very high ceiling, and here's hoping that he boosts me back up the ranks to around the 50k mark. Now, if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. And if you do enjoy the following content, make sure to hit that like button. Now, before we jump into the team selection, we'll just quickly run in through the FPLFanatic League. And Daniel Harrington, the new entry to the league who I was chatting with in the comments last week, comes into the league and pips Mark Evans in the top spot by 2 points. Now, he managed to secure this spot by benching Estupinan's -2 points, who, like myself and Mark, were actually forced to play in Game Week 7, even though both of us did actually start Estupinan with his -2 points, so we didn't get him off the bench. But it was this difference that has kept Daniel at the top of the league with 478 points next to Mark Evans at 476 and Mark Hubbard down in 470. Where am I now? 458, so I'm 20 points behind Daniel Harrington with a changed name in his team. Seems like he's gone with something a little bit dodgy to start the season off with and hasn't updated it. But he is currently ranked at 20k overall with a team of Anana and net, Fabian Schär, Bell, Saliba across the back, Son, Madison, Salah and Buemo, 4 players which I own in midfield, and his differential with Matoma in the middle of the park, with Haaland captained up front and Julian Alvarez. Turner on the bench, Botman, Estupinan and Mubama. It's actually a very similar team to my own, but he is currently ranked 20 points above me and 20k overall in the world. So very nice going, Daniel. I am coming for you though, mate. Russell M. Dowdov? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And myself all gained points on the top 3 in the league this weekend. And so it is actually quite tight in the FPLFanatic League. Now, if you are interested in joining the league, there is a link in the description below and entries are still open. I will probably shut it down at some point later in the season because we can't have just people jumping into the league and taking top spot for the whole season, but we will leave it open for a little while. So this was my team for Game Week 7. I'll very quickly read it out. I did go through the team in a little bit more detail in the video earlier in the week, so feel free to check that out if you are at all interested. I got 49 points, which was the average for the game week. Send me tumbling down the ranks from 56k overall, which I started Game Week 7 at, down to 130k in the world. Still very happy with this rank. It is still very early in the season, but it is great to get off to a good start. I started Johnston in net away to Manchester United over Turner, which I was rewarded with quite heavily. I was quite happy to go with that as a differential, especially considering there are a lot of managers out there that still have double United midfield, and so I thought I could steal quite a bit of rank on them if Manchester United continued to continued to not impress. So I had Johnson and net, Estupinan, Byrne, and Kabore, who was my auto sub in for Botman across the back of the park. In midfield, I have Madison, Saka with his 9 points, who could have actually gotten a monster haul as he gave away 2 penalties. And Boimo, Son, and Salah, who was absolutely robbed of an assist and about 30k in terms of rank for those 3 points. That was an abysmal decision by the VAR, not only for all the Egyptian king backers out there, but also for Liverpool, who cost them 2 points in the league. We have Julian Alvarez up front. Haaland was captain, who blanked, and on the bench, as I already mentioned, Turner, Botman, Woodrow, who is a really non-playing forward, and Bulldog, who has been injured for a few weeks. And so the 2 key assets that I have to sell this week is definitely Estupinan and Botman. I am running with an extremely light bench. At the moment I actually only have Kabore, who is a playing bench member, and I do not fancy playing him in any fixture. As you can see, I did bench him for his double, as I do not at all rate the Luton team as they are playing at the moment. But Estupinan has been ruled out until early November, so he'll miss at least the next 3 game weeks, with game week 11 being the earliest likely return date, but there's no guarantee he'll actually be back by then. And he will definitely drop in value over the coming weeks, so I have in fact already cashed him out for the 0.1 million profit that I've made on that sale. Botman's injury is a little bit less clear. He's definitely going to miss game week 8, and so that's almost an auto sell for me, as I do not fancy playing Kabore against Tottenham this weekend. But we aren't exactly sure when he will be back. Eddie Howe said that he hopes he'll be back after the international break in game week 9, but there is no guarantee that that is going to be the case, and considering it is a knee injury, which can be a little bit finicky, he could be out for a couple of game weeks, and so he has actually already left my squad as well. As of today, I cashed in the 0.1 million made on Botman as well, who actually only came into my team a couple of weeks ago. I've actually gotten very lucky with Botman, apart from, of course, the benching at the weekend. I bought him in game week 5 for his 9-pointer against Brentford, and then he scored a goal in the absolute demolishing of Sheffield United in game week 6. Rose in value from 4.5 all the way up to 4.7, but he is scheduled for a drop in about an hour or so, or in the next half an hour in New Zealand. So I have already cashed in on this. I did have 2 free transfers in the bank with 0.1 million in the bank as well. But if you do have a bit of a playing bench, you could in fact hold on to Botman. If he is in fact back in game week 9, his fixtures of Crystal Palace at home, Wolves away, Arsenal at home, and Bournemouth away aren't actually terrible. And I know Newcastle could come away with some clean sheets in the majority of those matches, but I think we can probably find a better asset for the next run of 5 games, including the fact that Botman will in fact be out today, and he will almost certainly drop in value across this period. So the team selection video is out a little bit late, as I was, the key team that I was looking at was Aston Villa, and they've just finished their match a couple of hours ago, and I wanted to see if Matty Cash was in fact going to survive the match, and I also had my eye on Diaby. So Matty Cash has come through unscathed, and I have in fact made the transfers, which I did discuss in the video earlier in the week. So if you are at all interested in my reasoning behind Udogie and Cash, you can go and check out that video. But I basically have followed through with the transfers. With the money that I've made on both Estupinan and Botman, selling the pair of them for Cash and Udogie was actually exact funds, meaning I still have 0.1 million in the bank. But I do have Saka in the middle of the park, and in my eyes, I think Saka has to go this week, even for a hit, which I will in fact be taking. So I've actually already taken a hit this season. It was game week 6 where I took my one and only hit, which actually worked out pretty well considering I scored 94 points with the -4 points already included in that value, which took me from 271k all the way up to 56k in game week 6. So I'm not at all too worried about taking a hit, even though I did take a hit a little while ago. Not too long ago, sorry. I am a little bit... I don't like taking hits leading into the international break, but I do think Saka warrants this hit. So Saka has actually been carrying an injury for a few weeks now. He's been touch and go for a start over the last few Premier League games, and he was also looking a little bit dodgy for the Champions League fixture midweek. And he was, in fact, subbed off very early in that match, coming off around the 30-minute mark in a Champions League fixture, which is a clear indication that he is struggling with something a bit more serious than just a minor injury. Now, Saka could indeed be deemed fit by Arteta this weekend. It does look like he is flogging him a little bit and seems to be relying very heavily on Saka to play week on week. He's not even allowing him to recover in the fixtures leading up to the Champions League, and they do have Man City this weekend. And so I would have thought that you would have probably given Saka a rest in order to have a fit and ready Saka for the Champions League fixture mix midweek, and then the fixture against City this weekend. And it is the City fixture that I think may push Arteta into playing Saka if he is at all able to play. But even if he does start this match, I am very concerned about whether or not Saka will actually make it through this fixture, or make it through many minutes in this fixture at all. I don't think Arteta is going to give anything away. I doubt he will completely rule Saka out, as that would just be giving Pep a bit of an advantage when it comes to his own team selection. And so I don't think we're going to get any more clear of an indication as to whether or not Saka is going to start. But like I said, even if he is risked for this game against Man City, I do not think he is too likely to be able to complete that match anyway. And so I am selling Saka for a hit this week, as an 8.5 million asset in the middle of the park is actually prime real estate for the current meta for FPL, and I think there is almost certainly going to be double-digit return for another midfielder in FPL this weekend. It's all about trying to nail down who that replacement option is going to be, and with 8.5 million, the 8.5 million price point of Saka, I can basically buy anyone in the game, apart from the United lads, who I just do not want a bar of at the moment. And everyone else I kind of already own, with Salah, Son and Maddison already in the squad and have been for quite a while. So the first candidate that was on my list to bring in this week. This was before the Champions League fixture with Saka not being pulled off, was actually Diaby from Aston Villa. I watched the Aston Villa match last weekend, and Diaby does look like a very dangerous threat. I've also got no easy route into Watkins with the current structure and setup that I am running, and so a purchase of someone like Diaby would be a great way to cheaply tap into the Aston Villa attack for their great run of upcoming attacking fixtures. So this week they've got Wolves away, followed by West Ham at home, Luton at home, Nottingham Forest away, and then Fulham at home. That is a relatively good run of attacking fixtures. However, Diaby was actually ruled out of the Europa fixture this morning, and it's touch and go as to whether or not he is going to be available for this weekend. And it wasn't actually Saka that I was looking to replace Diaby with. It was the Mbeumo spot in the middle of the park, who I bought for 6.5, is currently at 6.8, so my sale value is 6.6 million. Diaby is basically a like-for-like replacement, currently at 6.7 million, so with the 0.1 million in the bank, I could go straight from Mbeumo to Diaby, and that is the move that I am looking to make in a couple of weeks. But I do not really want to go Saka all the way down to a 6.5 million asset, as I would be leaving 2 million in the bank, basically turning Diaby into a premium asset, even though he is not a premium priced asset, just for this game week 8 fixture. I mean, next week I could definitely reinvest the 2 million and it doesn't seem all that bad, but just for game week 8 it would effectively turn Diaby into an 8.5 million asset, and I don't really think that is the best way to go. Tie that in with the fact that he was injured for the Europa fixture. It is a bit touch and go. And also, I'm not actually thinking that this Wolves fixture is going to be as easy as it looks on paper for Villa. So Wolves have actually been playing some pretty decent attacking football over the recent weeks. I watched the Wolves versus Liverpool game 3 weeks ago, and Wolves dominated Liverpool in their first 45 minutes of that match. And of course, they've just come off the back of a huge scalp, taking out last year's treble winners Man City in a 2-1 victory in game week 7. So this Wolves fixture for Aston Villa is not at all going to be an easy game for Villa. I could actually see Wolves coming away with a victory here. Not ideal, because I have just bought Medicash in, but Medicash is a bit of a long-term hold for me, and I was basically forced into that move with the injuries. But I don't think I actually want to jump on Diaby for this Wolves away fixture. And then Villa have to play West Ham. Is it at home? I think it's a home fixture. Yes, West Ham at home, and West Ham at home are no mugs either. They've actually playing some pretty decent football as well, and so I'm actually going to be swerving the Aston Villa attack for the next couple of game weeks. It's really that game in game week 10 that I really want to be jumping on some Aston Villa attacking assets, as they play Luton at home, who are the whipping boys, a team to target for me, followed up by Nottingham Forest away and then Fulham at home. It is a really nice run of 3 fixtures for any attacking asset in the Aston Villa team. Now, Luton have been known to park the bus, but if they have any shot at staying in the Premier League, it is teams like Aston Villa where they are going to have to get a little bit more adventurous and try and pull in some points if they have any shot at staying in the league. And so Aston Villa versus Luton in game week 10, looks like a fixture that is just going to play exactly into Villa's hands, and I think it is something that I am definitely going to have cover for. That's why I'm probably going to be holding Mbeumo up until that point. Maybe not. Yeah, actually, Mbeumo's got a really nice fixture after this fixture against Manchester United. He's playing Burnley at home the following game week, and so I'm more than happy to hold Mbeumo for the next 2 game weeks, and so it'll likely be that I jump on Diaby in game week 10. So there's a couple of other assets that I briefly flirted with. One was Pedro Neto at Wolves, who has been looking pretty dangerous, but I never really see Wolves as a team that's going to score more than 2 goals in any match, and so he's not really the high ceiling player that I'm looking for as a replacement for Saka, so I've definitely ruled him out. Another option would have been Kulusevski. I've obviously brought in Udogie, and so that completely rules Kulusevski out for me this game week, but for anyone else who is looking at potentially a triple up in the middle of the park, he does have 2 great fixtures coming up. They play Luton away this week, followed by Crystal Palace at home, which are 2 very good attacking fixtures for Spurs. But in the Postecoglou system, it really is the central players who are afforded the most opportunities in front of goal, as the wingers tend to stay quite wide for the majority of the match. And so I don't really place a very high ceiling on Kulusevski either. So if you're not already tripled up for Spurs, he is a viable candidate, and he definitely could come away with some points or even a brace. I don't really see Kulusevski ever scoring a hat-trick, but he is, definitely worth considering if you are so inclined in your teams. However, the player that I'm actually going to run with is currently owned by less than 10% of the game and is a very under the radar pick. Like I mentioned in the intro, I haven't actually seen this player in any wildcard draft that I have come across this week, and I think he could come away with an absolute monster haul this weekend. And the player that I am looking to bring in, well, not looking to bring in, he is actually coming straight into the team, is Luis Diaz. Currently owned by 9.5% of all managers, and currently on a downward trend. He started the season at 7.5 million, made it all the way up to 7.7 million very quickly, and over the last 3 weeks he's gone from 7.7 down to 7.6 and is now back down to his starting price of 7.5 million, which seems to be an absolute steal for a very attacking asset in a very attacking team. Now, it was Diaz that Klopp inserted into the aforementioned Wolves game, where Liverpool were dominated in the first 45 minutes of the match, where Diaz came in off the bench at half-time and completely changed the game. The polarization between the first half and the second half in that match was very stark in contrast. Diaz he instantly made a huge difference, sparking life into the match with his work rate, intensity and chance creation down the left-hand side of the pitch, working in symbiosis with Robertson. And with Jota out suspended this weekend for his red card in the fixture last weekend, Diaz is almost guaranteed a start. And having watched Liverpool over the last couple of weeks, I think Diaz is actually first choice in Klopp's eyes. So even if Jota was wasn't suspended, I still think Diaz would be the man who was going to get the nod. So My 4-point hit of Diaz is in. Yeah, Luis Diaz has come into the squad. Now, it should be noted that Diaz scored a legitimate goal last week when Liverpool were actually already down to 10 men on the pitch. It was just an absolute balls up by VAR, which they have now admitted, that saw the goal wiped off. And so, excuse me. So with a full 11 on the pitch, I can definitely see Diaz drastically improving on the expected stats that he did manage to generate last weekend against Tottenham, who are no mugs. Very good team at the moment. And Diaz still managed to come away with 0.66 expected goals, 0.72 expected goal involvement overall just in that one match. And I'm pretty sure that does not include the offside goal, as it was in fact ruled out. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm really hoping that he can come away with a monster haul against Brighton this weekend and send me back up the ranks to around the 50k or better mark that I was at just a couple of game weeks ago. So that's my super under the radar pick for this weekend. I would definitely eye him up, especially all of you who are on wildcard at the moment. I haven't seen Luis Diaz in any wildcards, and he is at a very kind price point. So for those of you who are sort of struggling with team value, trying to get Salah into your teams, he is one that you should definitely consider. They have a great run of fixtures coming up, especially from an attacking mindset. Brighton away. We just saw what happened to Brighton last week when it doesn't click. They got absolutely thrashed by Aston Villa, and Liverpool are going to put up a similar sort of XG in this match, I do believe. They then face Everton at home, followed by Nottingham Forest at home, Luton away, and then Brentford at home over the next 5 game weeks. And so he is an uber differential that I am very excited to bring into my squad, even for a -4 point hit. Now the last thing that I will go over in my team selection video is Son versus Salah for captaincy. So I am definitely not going to be captaining Haaland this weekend. It is probably the best weekend to be going against a Haaland captaincy, as I think a lot of managers will be going against Haaland, given that they are away to Arsenal this week. And so the amount of effective ownership risk is severely diminished, meaning that we have a great shot to use this captaincy chip as another route to go, hopefully, screaming up the ranks. Now, I think both Son and Salah are the top 2 candidates for captaincy this week, and they've both got the potential to explode and go huge. Son is reminding us just how clinical he is in front of goal, with 6 goals in the last 4 game weeks since he has been playing in that number 9 role. He picked up the hat-trick against Burnley. He then scored 2 goals against Arsenal, which is no easy feat, and also came away with a goal in the match at the weekend against Liverpool. And so he definitely has, well, all the qualities that we look for in an FPL player, and could go huge this weekend, and is probably going to be one of the highest captained assets this weekend, considering he is at a much kinder price point than Salah, meaning a lot more managers out there are going to be able to get Son into their teams, and those without Salah will almost certainly be captaining Son. I could go into a whole bunch of reasons as to why Son is obviously a great captaincy candidate, but it is actually the drawbacks of Son which is going to be the things that split the decision between Son and Salah. Now, Salah has still not missed a return all season. Yeah, I know he only came away with 1 point at the weekend in that game against Tottenham, but he was absolutely robbed of an assist in that game, and so I'm just putting it down to the fact that he still hasn't actually missed a return, even though I don't have those points. Yeah, I know that makes no sense, but we're really just looking at how he's performing, right? So, where am I? Sorry, I'm just looking through the notes. So, the things that Salah has in his favour over Son is that we do definitely know that Salah is on penalties. I am tipping Son to be on penalties. I'm like 90 to 95% certain that he is probably the man that's going to step up and take the next penalty for Tottenham, assuming that he is on the pitch. Salah is a 90-minute man. He is basically never subbed off. He was subbed off at the weekend, but that was due to game state, as Liverpool were down to 10 men after about 25 minutes and then went down to 9 men later on in the match, and so he was the man that was pulled off in order to adjust the tactics on the field. So Salah already has the minutes over Son. Son has been pulled off early ever since he went into that number 9 position. So he's only made it to 70 minutes twice in the 4 games where he has been playing a number 9, and then the 80-minute mark in the other 2 games for the 4 games in which he has been playing up front. And it is actually that fixture last week where he was pulled off at the 70-minute mark that is quite telling. It was 1-1 at the point at which Son was pulled off, and I do not think that Postecoglou pulled Son off because he was trying to play the game out for a 1-1 draw. Postecoglou is an incredibly attacking-minded manager, and this is the reason why I do not think he was pulling him off in order to just secure the draw. It seems a lot more likely to me that he is protecting Son, as he is now quite well aware that Son is the key player in that Tottenham squad, whereas if they do lose Son through an injury, it is going to severely diminish Tottenham's prospects of consistently winning games. So I think Postecoglou is looking at it and going, if I can get 70 minutes out of Son week on week until he gets whatever niggle it is that has had flags on Son over the last few game weeks, those 70 minutes week on week is way more beneficial than trying to push him to the 90-minute mark and potentially losing Son for a couple of months. So all of these reasons is already more than enough reason for me to put the armband on Salah instead of Son, but it is actually the game state that I am expecting in this Brighton fixture which is actually going to make me switch the captaincy. So yes, I will be running with Salah as my captain this week, which is a little bit, could go very badly. The Son could definitely come away with a hat-trick in this Luton fixture, and he is going to be very heavily captained in this match. But I think the Brighton fixture is definitely going to go, it's definitely going to be an open game, right? So De Zerbi will never park the bus. He is going to persist with his expansive style of football. I love watching the football that De Zerbi and Brighton are putting together, but we have just seen exactly how that can go wrong. So if there are a couple of key players on the Brighton pitch who are just not quite clicking, There were a lot of wayward passes last week. They didn't seem to quite have the energy that Brighton usually run with, which is kind of weird because De Zerbi has been rotating the team quite heavily, and so everyone should be quite fresh and ready. But when it just doesn't quite click, the style of football in which they play can be torn to pieces, which is what Aston Villa showed in the weekend just gone, putting, was it 6? Actually forgotten. I think it was 6 goals past Brighton when it does not kind of work. Now I think Liverpool are a much more dangerous attacking team than Aston Villa, and so if we do find that Brighton just aren't quite on the ball again, haven't quite recovered from that hammering last weekend, they did come away with did they come away with a victory in Europa? Probably should have checked that before I came on, but yeah, I do think that Liverpool could come away with a whole bunch of goals in this match. It could be anywhere between 2 to 8 goals in this fixture, like for both Brighton and Liverpool. We could be treated to a captivating 5-3 scoreline in either direction in this match. But I'm actually putting my money on Liverpool to win while scoring 3 goals in the match. Now, the game state in the Tottenham vs Luton game is Luton are almost certainly going to park the bus. There will be about 11 men in and around the penalty box, or just outside the penalty box, for Son to deal with. And given that Son has spent a lot of his career out at left wing, which is a position where you're usually afforded an absolute abundance of space, where there's a lot of one-on-ones and take-ons, switching from that left wing position into the striker position, the hardest adjustment that any player has to make is actually managing to find the space when you are constantly marked by 2 centre-backs. Now, this was the thing that I struggled with the most in my career when I moved from left wing to striker in the first team local club that I played for here in Auckland. And it is something that Son is going to have to adjust to. Now, Son is a very hard worker. He will have been studying a lot about what he needs to do in that number 9 position. You can see that just by the fact that he is so talented with his left foot. He definitely puts in the hard work to make sure that his game is up to scratch, and so he will definitely be working hard to figure out the nuances of playing in that solo striker role. But this is only the second game, like actual competitive game, where he will get a chance to try and learn that role, playing against a low block. And of course this doesn't mean that he won't have already figured it out and he won't be able to find that space. He is a very smart footballer and could easily come away with the goods this weekend, but he has only had that one Sheffield United fixture a couple of game weeks ago where he came up with the fact that he usually had 3 or 4 men within a few yards of him at all times in the game. And so it's very congested. You have to be very aware of what's going on around you. You have to make some very strange runs that he will not at all be used to, as he has built most of his experience playing out on the left wing. And so even though I know that he could figure it out in this game, I think for all of those compounding reasons, Salah has the much higher ceiling this weekend, and I am crossing my fingers, hoping and praying that Son doesn't absolutely demolish my rank this weekend, going against him for the captaincy. So that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, press the like button and consider subscribing. And if not, that's all good too. I appreciate you watching. Cheers.